Welcome to In Her Voice, a podcast created for women who listen to and live by their deepest wisdom, their inner voice. This was made for you, the woman who feels pulled to more, to lead, to create, to dream, and to be a world changer. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am an inner voice coach. Join me here each week as we explore what it means to reach for your inspired potential, all while honoring your worthiness each and every day. Hello, everyone. This is Kelly, and you are listening to In Her Voice. Thank you for being here today, for opening your heart to my words. It means so much to me. And I have such a beautiful guest on today. I have DeeDee Morris, and we are talking about Dharma and grace. And both of these concepts are so beautiful and so expansive and so transformational. I can't wait to dive into this interview with you. It is just so beautiful, and it's been sitting in the hopper for a while, so I'm so glad to bring it to you. And I know that this is going to be the perfect timing for someone out there to hear these words and to say, yes, that was meant for me. I want to remind you guys that I am here for you. I am an inner voice coach, and my work is to help women find that voice and listen to it so deeply and so fully that your actions are aligned with your soul. That is what listening to your inner voice is all about. And it's not always easy. We have a lot of voices that are coming our way. The voice inside our head that tells us we're not good enough, or that we always need to be more in order to fit in. We have the voices from the world saying this is what you have to look like, and this is what you have to say, and this is what your bank account needs to be in order to be worthy. And you guys know that that is not the truth. But sometimes it's hard to hear that truth if you haven't been practicing, if you haven't taken the time to hold yourself accountable, to get to that place, to listen, and to take the actions that are aligned with what your soul is asking you to do. If you feel like you need help with this, if you feel like you need support, guess what? That is my life's work. That is why I have been put here on this earth, to help you listen to your inner voice. If that is something that you want support with, that you want help with, let's talk. Let's schedule a discovery call so we can see if my coaching services would fit for you, if they would be a good fit, if it would make sense in your life right now. I have two amazing styles of offerings for you, one that's a little bit easier on the budget and one that is a lot more intensity and contact, and both are right for you if you need them. So why don't you reach out to me? Head on over to kellycovert.com/discovery, set up a discovery call. Let's talk. Let's see if inner voice coaching is right for you and if it can help you get to feeling the way that you want to feel, which is worthy. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. DeeDee Morris, owner and operator of DeeDee Morris Photography, is passionate about telling stories through images, specifically your story. Her images reveal the beautiful, raw, and honest connections you have to your people and to yourself. Published internationally and locally, she has also shown her fine art portraits in galleries across Canada. She is a founding member of Women in Dharma, a cooperative of women creating unique, uplifting, and life-changing experiences to support women aligning to their unique path. She lives on the east coast of Canada, just outside of Halifax, with her husband and twin toddlers. This is a beautiful conversation about your soul's purpose and about how we can give ourselves grace enough to make mistakes and to allow growth and to transform. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. DeeDee Morris, it's so wonderful to have you on In Her Voice today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited to dive into the topic of Dharma today, because as I told you before we started recording, it's something I know of, but not a lot about, but I feel like it's integral to all of us. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just start with and this is such a huge question, but we'll go with it. What is Dharma?
It is a huge question, but it can be simplified actually. So if you look up Dharma, you'll get a whole bunch of different definitions from different religions, different spiritualities, different people. Um, but what we go with at Women in Dharma is that it is the journey of being you. So it's
Oh,
just your journey.
I love that. The journey of being you.
Hmm.
So how do we take that journey?
That's a really good question. I think you, I think it's inevitable that you will take the journey because it's whatever journey that you're on. But I think that there are ways to explore within your journey. There are ways, sorry, there are ways to explore yourself within that journey and to change the journey that you're on as well.
I find that fascinating because as someone who used to be a high overachiever, I felt like I was always trying to, gosh, in some ways manipulate
Mm,
my journey, but never really fully understanding what that journey was.
hmm.
And so I'm curious for you personally and just in general, how do you discover what it is you want to be?
I go inside a lot. I talk to my soul. I talk to myself. I meditate. I go with my gut. I
Mm,
do what feels right. I listen to that inner voice that is actually there to guide you into the best possibilities.
absolutely. Do you have a story of a time when you felt deeply moved by that or that really stuck out to you?
Yes. So my husband and I have been married for 20 years, 20 and a half years, actually. We got married when we were very young, and that's a story in and of itself. But I'll go with this one of we never really wanted to have kids. Actually, we I never really wanted to, and he was just kind of going with the flow of it. Um, we loved our life as a couple without kids. We loved traveling together. We loved all of our adventures, and we loved growing a massive garden together and building a life just the two of us. And then one day I was stopped at a stoplight in the city, and all of a sudden I heard this voice as clear as day and very strong say, "You want a family?" And I stopped and was like, crap.
Well, that's news to me.
Yeah, that was like big news to me. So we had probably 10 years previous to that gone on a journey of figuring out fertility complications because we were not very careful when we were intimate. And I was starting to be curious as to whether or not there was something going on because I was never getting pregnant. And so just to check, just to make sure, at this point we didn't want to pursue anything because we didn't want to have kids, but I wanted to just make sure that everything was okay.
Uh-huh.
And so we had gone to fertility specialists to find out if everything was fine. And it turned out that everything was not fine, that my husband was missing he was born without his vas deferens, which is what connects A to B.
Mm.
And so we left it at that. We were just like, okay, well, it's good to know that, and left it there. And yeah, so we knew going into having a family that it was kind of a big deal. Like it wasn't just, okay, let's start trying to have a baby. It was like an expensive hormonal trip to go on.
Right.
So that was even more when I like heard that voice. I was like, okay, this is a really big game changer. And but I listened to it, and I went home. I went straight home, and I said to my husband, I think we're gonna have a family. And he was like, oh, okay, well, all right. So I guess I'll call social services and we'll like talk to them about adoption and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, nope, I think I'm going to be pregnant. And he was like, okay then. So we made the appointment the next day, and it was like 6 months later that no, it was 8 months later that we conceived, that we had our twin girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have some gorgeous photos of you and your family on your website, which we'll share
Mm.
on in the show notes and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
I when I saw those photos, I was like, oh, like I can see that love that you
Mm-hmm.
have in your family, and I really liked being able to see that
Mm.
on your page. I mean, here's a question. I have so many questions about this. Had your inner voice ever spoken to you like that before?
I think it used to a lot when I was little. Like
Yeah.
I have memories of conversations, like just knowing that I could tap into something that was stronger than just my external self. Um, but that strongly, I'm not sure if it's ever been that strong before, but I've definitely like had moments of just knowing things, of this like calmness come over me and just knowing that certain things were going to happen and that it was going to be okay.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is almost it's like a sense in your body. You know,
Hmm.
like here's this voice literally speaking to you,
Hmm.
saying you want a family, something you never thought you wanted,
Hmm.
and you were just able to go with it.
Yeah.
And I think that that is for many people something that has to be developed over time.
I think it has to be redeveloped or reawakened, maybe is
Yes.
the word, because I think we always have it. It's always there. It's just not, we're just not listening to it. We stop listening to it.
Mhm.
And so I think that it's more that we have to wake it back up.
Yeah, I believe
Mhm.
that. I believe that too. So, did you have a process of reawakening? I mean, what did that look like for you?
I think it's just been a lot of years of searching and like doing a lot of soul searching and a lot of spiritual searching and getting in touch with myself. I'm also a very creative person, and I feel like that has really helped me kind of tap into listening to my inner voice, because when I feel like when you're creative, it's just like it's a very free expression of that. And often when I take photographs, or if I would draw, or I used to collage a lot, I would look back on it and learn so much about what I was going through. So it was almost like I didn't I didn't necessarily know at the point at that time of creating, but then looking back, I saw so much meaning in it. And so
Mm,
I think that that was also my inner voice speaking to me.
yeah. So, in other words, go do the things that you feel like you're supposed to do,
Hmm.
and then reflect back on those and see
Hmm.
what you've learned.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, for someone who's listening to this who thinks Dharma feels very um, religious, not religious is not the right word, spiritual, it feels very deep. I don't know if I'm ready for something like that.
Hmm.
What would you say to them?
Um, that's a really good question. I would never want to tell somebody that they should force it, because I feel like then nothing good is going to come from it. Um, I do think though that you can always take baby steps. So you can always like even just going for a walk and just listening to yourself, listening to your thoughts, paying attention to your thoughts. That's listening. That's your inner self. There are pieces of your inner voice and of your soul that are coming through. And so just go for a walk, listen to your thoughts, pay attention to your thoughts, pay attention to the things that are around you. Um, and yeah, start small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
And
love
that's not
that.
scary. It's not scary to just listen to your thoughts.
Exactly. It's not. Although if you are particularly hard on yourself, it might be.
That's true. That is true. So don't listen to those thoughts.
You know, we laugh about it, but I think it's so important to distinguish the difference and to understand that, number one, you can discern between those sort of head inner mean girl thoughts and the thoughts of your inner wisdom, and that you don't have to buy in to every single thought that you have.
It's very true. And I think like those thoughts, the what people call the inner critic or the mean girl or whatever you want to call it, I think those thoughts arise more out of our fear and our pain than they do out of like our dharma, our spirituality, our inner self, our soul. Those are all meant to guide us into good. They're meant to guide us into the positive and into the light, and not into the darkness of those negative thoughts. And so I think when you really pay attention to those negative thoughts, you're dwelling more in your fear and your pain than in your true self.
And I think it's important to mention that in my life, in my experience anyway, the negative thoughts are still there. As much practicing I do, as much connecting to my inner voice, intentionally discerning the difference, they're still there.
For sure.
And I think sometimes people just expect them to go away.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. It's true. Yeah.
And so I love that you talk about this, that when we choose to listen to those negative thoughts, we're making a choice to stay in fear. We're making a choice to stay in a place of suffering. And that is not required, right?
Correct. Yeah, I don't think that it's required, but it's also okay. Like, I think that, that's another, I, I, I kind of am scared of saying that, it's not required to stay in there, but I don't want people to then start thinking, turning that around into another negative thought of like, well, why can't I not stay in this? Why can't I move out of this? And I think that there are times in our lives where the suffering is okay, because we do learn from it. We can learn from the suffering.
How do you figure that out? I mean, how do you how can you sort of say, all right, now is a time right now where it's okay for me to be here, and then now is a time where I need to move past it?
I think that's, again, like listening to your inner voice. Like, I think you can do both at the same time. Honestly, you can suffer and you can still be listening to your inner voice.
100%.
And so I think, your inner voice will tell you that it's okay.
Yeah. I like to share with people that your true inner voice is always loving. It's always supportive. It will tell you things that you don't always want to hear, but will always do it in a way of encouraging.
Exactly.
In a way of like, I've got your back and I know you can do this.
Exactly.
And that feels really different from a voice that tells you you're not good enough, or that you didn't try hard enough, or that you suck, or whatever it is that voice is saying. And I think that that's really important to note, that just like your voice was like, you want a family, and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What? It doesn't always tell us easy things.
No, exactly. Like, that's definitely not an easy thing, especially when you really didn't think you did. Yeah.
But it sounds like you just went with it.
Yeah.
And what, like, gosh, a year and a half later, you had 2 beautiful daughters.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how has motherhood changed you?
Oh, man. In so many ways, it's like, it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Amen.
And like, I knew, so people would come up to me and they would say, oh, you must be so excited you're having twins. And I would look at them and be like, oh, what? Like, I'm excited to meet them, but this is going to be hard work. Like having two babies at once is not going to be anywhere near easy. And so I would say, yes, I'm excited, but, and there would be this big but behind that. Um, but yeah, motherhood, man, it has cracked me wide open. It is
Mm-hmm.
just like, they give me so much inspiration. They drive me to be better, to do better, to be the best person that I can be. I fail
Mm-hmm.
at it every single day, but every morning I wake up and I say to myself, today is another day that I get to start from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Motherhood was such, I feel like that was how I created myself. I
Hmm.
mean, if that makes any sense, like
Yep.
I feel like there was me from the day that I was born,
Hmm.
and then there was me from the day that my first son was born.
Totally.
And it almost like starting new again and
Yep.
starting fresh and like realizing all of these things about yourself that you didn't even know were there. That that it's possible to love someone so much and so intensely. Like how
Hmm.
could we not know that before
Yeah.
we had kids?
Right. It's amazing. It really is quite an incredible thing. And I think also for women who become mothers, there's another sort of existential crisis that happens in that time period as well, because all of a sudden you don't know who you are anymore. You have this
Mhm.
whole new role that is all encompassing, but then there's still that old you there too. And how do you meld them together and make this new creation of a person where you're both at the same time?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I love that. What are some of the ways that you've been navigating that?
Um, Well, I think for me it's been really helpful to be self-employed as a photographer, because that's my outlet. Like it's my job, but it's not a job. It's my passion. And so from 3 months old I started shooting again, and it was like what fed me basically. It kept me going. It filled up my cup again
Mhm.
and again so that I could then be there for them in a way better way.
Mhm.
And so I think that that has really helped me to kind of hold on to the self that I was before I was a mother, and also integrate being a mother, because I do it for them. Like I go out and I take photos of people and I help show them who they are, who their deeper, their truer selves are, that always get expressed in imagery, in photography, I feel like. Um, and then my girls get to see me do that. They get to see that occur.
Mhm.
So my girl, every once in a while, they have these like toy cameras. They'll come up to me and they'll say, "Mama, I take your picture. I take your beautiful picture," which makes me so happy, because it's like they're imitating what I do, like what my contribution is to the universe. They are imitating that, and they already see the value in it.
Yeah. I love that you've taken the thing that fills you up
Hmm.
and created financial income from
Hmm.
that, because I think that's what I do too. My
Hmm.
whole life has been that, and I do lots of different things. I do my podcast, I do my inner voice coaching, I'm a professional musician.
Okay.
And that, for me at the beginning, that was a thing that enabled me to sort of keep my own identity
Yeah.
as I was navigating motherhood,
Hmm.
and still is. It's such an outlet for me. But I think that there's something really special about taking the thing that is you, uniquely you,
Hmm.
and then making that into also what generates financial wellness and health for
Hmm.
yourself. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing, because I feel like a lot of people shy away from doing that with what they're passionate about, because they feel like if all of a sudden they have to make money at it, then it's going to take the passion away.
Mm-hmm.
that has definitely not been the case for me. It just keeps driving me and wanting to continue doing the photography. Like it's actually the opposite end of the spectrum for me, where um, the more I get paid for it, the more I want to just keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's it causes its own stresses too, because you don't know where your next paycheck is going to come from. You're always thinking 3-4 months ahead and booking and planning for that, um, and traveling for it and all of that. So there's still the business side of the passion, which isn't my strong suit, but my like artistic voice is so much more powerful than that side, that I can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think that it's important to note that it's not easy
Hmm.
to do that, but it's definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it. And like I said to my husband a little while ago, because he's not happy in what he does. He would love to be doing something different, but he's like, we're financially dependent on him to be working as well. So I said to him, I was like, I would love it if within the next year we could transition to me doing more of the full-time work and you doing more of a part-time work, because I like love so much what I'm doing. So why am I the one that's not doing it full time?
Yeah. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
So,
that. I like that. Let's switch gears a little bit
sure.
because I wanted to ask you about something that I found when I was perusing deeply. I go to like the deep dark corners of everyone's website when I'm
Nice.
preparing. But one of the things I wanted to talk with you about today in particular is grace.
Oh.
There was just a little blurb in some spot on your website about grace
Hmm.
and how you feel that it's integral in our journey. Can you talk to us
Hmm.
about grace?
Yes, I would love to talk to you about grace. That I think is one of my very favorite words and entities. I'm going to call it an entity because that's what I feel like it is. Grace to me is what makes relationships and yourself survive. I think that if people were able to have grace for one another, to fill their lives, to fill their hearts with grace, we would be such a forgiving society. And that just turns into love. Because as soon as you have grace for somebody, then there's room for love to come in. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I just wanted to sit with it. It was so beautiful. Um, and how do we practice grace? And what does that look like?
Well, first, I think it comes from practicing it on yourself, to give yourself grace for making mistakes, and I feel like grace is different than forgiveness. It's like a space. Forgiveness is like it's a practice of like repetition, I think. But grace is like holding space for yourself. It's allowing for yourself to be in this space where you can make mistakes because you're human. You're going to. There's no way
Mm-hmm.
around it. You're going to make mistakes. Every single person makes and is going to make mistakes. And so grace is the space that you can reside in with those mistakes, allow them to occur, but still love yourself.
Mm.
And and so and I think like when you do hold that space for yourself, the love flows in and then out of you and into the other people that you're surrounding yourself with. So once you start allowing yourself to make mistakes and operate out of your own pain, or out of the baggage that you've accumulated, once you give yourself that grace to understand your bigger picture and to sit in it, then you'll start having grace for other people, and you'll start to see their bigger picture. You'll give them the space to start seeing their own bigger picture. That I think, do you know what I mean by the bigger picture?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So, and then once they start to feel your grace, then they'll feel like they can have grace for themselves too. And then there's more love with that. And yeah, I feel like grace is just like 100% integral to health, to
Mm-hmm.
health and wellness of society, of the planet, of everything.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful way of being. That's how I think of it, because it it is so allowing.
Hmm.
It allows for mistakes, it allows for beauty, it allows for love, it allows for strength, it allows
Hmm.
for weakness. It's so big.
Hmm.
And that's also how I want to be with other people. And
Hmm.
I think that you're exactly right in that we have to begin with ourselves, because if we can't create that space for ourselves, it's really, really hard to do it for other
Hmm.
people.
And it's really, really hard to do it for yourself too.
And
I will say that.
100%.
Yeah.
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 I call myself a recovering perfectionist. And one of the things that I learn over and over through the cycles of my life is that there will always be a time when I need to come back to the beginning of understanding that I am not perfect.
Hmm.
And I think that's the place where grace is,
Hmm.
in that acceptance
Yeah.
of that. And when you accept all of those things of yourself, all of the things you love and all of the things maybe that you aren't so greatly
Yeah.
in love with, then you can start accepting the things you don't love about other people.
Yeah, totally.
It's so, so good.
I like to always say that I'm perfectly imperfect.
Oh, amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And also, I think what I heard you saying was that grace is contagious.
Yes,
Yeah, I
it
just love
is.
that. Like
Yeah.
I want to go infect everyone with
Hmm.
grace
Totally. Yeah.
in the best way. Too bad there's not like something we could shoot out like a
I know,
virus. And
right?
well, okay, so I wanted to give you a moment. That's beautiful. Thank you for that explanation and
No problem.
of that. But I did want to give you a moment too to talk a little bit about Dharma in women.
Mm.
That is your one of your businesses. You've
Hmm.
got your hands in lots of different things, but
Hmm.
talk to us a little bit about what that is and what you guys do there.
Sure. So it's Women in Dharma.
Oh, I said it wrong. I'm
No, that's
sorry
fine.
about that.
No worries. It's totally fine. It's Women in Dharma, and we are a cooperative. So we've decided to run our business a little bit different than the conventional ways that businesses are run. So there's five of us on the team, two in Vancouver, one in Toronto, and two in Halifax. And we, as a cooperative, it's it's based on feminine principles. It's based on operating out of our hearts instead of always just our heads. We try to balance between both masculine and feminine energies. And so we're always just trying to check in with both. And by doing that, we check in with each other twice a week, just to see how we're doing and what we're doing. And really, it's like we have this belief that if you are operating out of your passion, out of your Dharma, in your journey of you being you, then you're going to give as much as you possibly can. And so we're kind of like, we're definitely a team, 100%, but we also are like on our own
Mm-hmm.
to do what we want to do. And so Megan Lorente and Krista Butler, they are the ones that co-founded the cooperative. We all get equal pay, no matter how much time we put in each week. Everyone gets paid out the same amount every month. One of the girls, Megan, she just gave birth to a baby girl a week ago. And so she's on maternity leave. She likes to call it something else, and I can't remember what that is. But we had this conversation when she was still pregnant, and she was like, I feel bad about being paid out when I'm not working. And I was like, but this is your Dharma. This is right now, your Dharma is being a mother to Lyra. And not that that will ever change, but your percentage, like if you were to break it down into percentages, most of your time needs to be taken up by Lyra. And so when you can give to Women in Dharma, that's when you do it. But otherwise, be a mom. be in your Dharma. And our goal is to support you in that. And so you 100% should take your payout because you're living in your Dharma. And so that's how we've structured our business, is like everything is as equal as possible. And we support each other as much as we can. We have hard truths with one another. We are super honest, and we have a lot of grace for each other.
I love that. I love that you've created a business that helps women be in their Dharma, that also helps you be in your Dharma.
Exactly. And yeah, so we create these experiences for women, like where we gather and we go for hikes, or we have what I started the Dharma dinners I think I've done 3 now, where people just come to my home and I put out this beautiful spread, and I have a woman from the community come and speak about her journey. And we just gather. We gather as women and share our experiences and share our own journeys and use each other as support within those. Yeah. And so we also have we have online stuff. So we have a online subscription, which is called Soulful You. And we have 2 upcoming, what we call the circle. We have 2 circles coming up where we gather on Zoom and we talk about the 2 different circles that we have right now is Returning to the Goddess and the Creativity Circle, which is what I'm leading. And they're 11 weeks, and we gather on Zoom once a week, and we talk about our struggles within both of those different circles and support one another.
Fantastic. Well, we will put links to all of those beautiful things in the show notes. And you guys, as you listen, you can just click right into whatever app you're listening to this in, and it will be right there. But I am so in love with what you are doing, what all of you ladies are doing up there. It makes me wish that I was in Canada. I want to come to a dinner.
Well, maybe someday they'll keep growing and everywhere. They'll just be everywhere.
Yeah.
That would be dreamy.
That is my wish. That is my wish for you, DeeDee. Thank you so much for being on In Her Voice today. It has just really made me so happy to sit with you and to listen to your soul speak. Thank you for sharing it with us. And I have one last question for you, something I ask all my guests. And that is, in your life right now, what do you hear your inner voice saying?
To be patient. I have a lot of big things coming up, and I'm always so eager to just get to them. And I think right now my call is to be patient.
I love it. What a good lesson. And there is grace for that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. DeeDee, thank you so much.
No problem. This was lovely.
So beautiful. I really believe when we begin to embody grace, that is the tonic. That's the healing of our perfectionism. That's the healing of all of those mean words that our inner mean girl voice has said to us, because grace is so big. There is so much room in grace for us to be imperfect, to fail, to make mistakes, to love one another. It is just this all-encompassing power, and it's in each and every one of us. And when we start to live in grace, and in doing so, give grace to others, wow, what a difference that makes in our world. So I hope that you guys love this episode as much as me. And I just want to remind you that your inner voice is there for you. It's there waiting for you to listen, waiting for you to tap in to that Dharma, as DeeDee calls it, that purpose, your soul's true purpose. Everyone that is walking this earth, including you, has that. You matter. What you are doing in this world matters, and what you were put here to do matters. So when you listen to your inner voice, you're saying, I'm here for a reason. I am worthy. If this is something that you are ready to step into, reach out, ask for that help, ask for that support. This is what I am here to do. This is my purpose. So let's set up a discovery call, kellycovert.com/discovery. Sign up to talk to me for free, to understand what inner voice coaching feels like, to see what it will bring in your life, and to get started. Remember, you are worthy.